Welcome back to the Raising Men podcast. My name is David Whalen, and as you've been following along, these podcasts are designed to help raise the culture of men, to help support men, families, parents, fathers, etc. And I'm grateful for a number of guests that we've had on, as you may have seen. I'm really looking for people to have great stories, great education and backgrounds, and something that can lend support to, again, the culture of men and raising up men and young men. And with that, I am absolutely grateful and excited today. My guest, Shawn Wells, the ingredientologist. He's also written a book called The Energy Formula. I've known Shawn, I'm going to guess, around mid-2000s. Shawn was working with a supplement company that I was involved with at the time. And, so sort of watched Shawn's growth and journey and paying attention. And I really felt like there was a story there. There was a piece that Shawn could really lend both to myself, because some of this podcast is obviously helping myself in my own personal journey, but also to others that may be listening. So welcome, Shawn Wells. I appreciate you being on board.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. No, it's I've been watching your journey, obviously, on social media, and sort of knowing of you for a while. But if you don't mind sort of taking us through a brief little history of sort of what took you to where you are today, from maybe where you started studying in supplements, nutrition, and however you'd like to share that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I started down the path of going to business school because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. That's what I was told to go do, is go make money.
Yeah.
And so business school is the most prudent choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about halfway through business school that I started working out, and I started using all these EAS supplements that had phosphagen and phosphagain and all these creatine and protein and hitting the gym. And I was someone that was laughed at and bullied for my body for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a difficult childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up going to the doctor in between my sophomore and junior year and telling this doctor about my passion for working out and how all these supplements are helping. And I was reading these supplement encyclopedias like by Bill Phillips. I read this book, Optimum Sports Nutrition, by Dr. Michael Colgan. Of course, I was looking at Arnold's bodybuilding guide, all of this stuff, and it was a game changer for me.
Oh, awesome.
And I was telling him about this, and I was so passionate about it, and he ends up drawing this lifeline out.
Mm-hmm.
and telling me, why not be happy between here and here? And I was 20 to 80 years old, and I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can really pursue something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the first time in my life that I felt like there was freedom to. My dog is barking. I'm gonna have to grab her in a second.
Yeah, definitely bring her in, man.
I'm gonna bring her. I'm gonna bring her.
Let's do it.
She's 17.
I love it.
And just hanging in there.
It's all good. This is real life. So definitely bring her in. Yeah.
Real life.
Awesome, man. This is all of a sudden everyone's going to tune in for the dog.
So,
no, that's awesome.
So getting back to, this doctor, it was the first time that I really had this thought that I could just do what I love.
Mm-hmm.
I was passionate about supplements. He could tell. And instead of making fun of supplements, like I think most doctors would, he ended up giving me so much freedom in that moment. And it changed my whole life path. And I've thought about it my whole life, that one person, that it wasn't his job to do this. I wouldn't be this ingredientologist, or, some people say world's greatest formulator, or biochemist, or author. I wouldn't have spoken on stages and patented 20 ingredients and formulated 700. Like none of that would happen without that one guy just saying, why not be happy between here and here?
That's such an important statement, I think, for people to hear. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, his words. I didn't believe in myself until that point, and I didn't think that I could just do something that I'm passionate about. I thought I had to do the things I was told to do, the smart things to do. And I would have, if I had just pursued down that path of the path I was on, maybe I would have made some money, but I never would have risen to the top of what I was doing because I wasn't passionate about it. And I'm just so thankful of what that gift he gave me, because I got to pursue my passion. And it wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. I was working in nursing homes. 10 years I was in nursing homes and hospitals, and, out in the country and in kitchens. And, I had to get my master's in nutrition. And yes, I had biochemistry, but as a registered dietitian, and all the while in my off hours, I was working at GNCs. I was on message boards at bodybuilding.com. I was at the Arnold, at the Olympia. I was formulating supplements. I was answering questions on these message boards. I was always hustling when I wasn't working. So it didn't just happen, but I wouldn't have been hustling like that had it not been something that I was so passionate about.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And I think everyone should sort of listen to that. I think it's a great kind of transition into partly why I wanted to speak to you on the podcast. About a year and a half ago, I lost my sister to suicide, and that kind of hit me really hard. I would say the last few years of my own personal life, with my family and challenges around being an entrepreneur and building business and a number of other things that have happened, have really been difficult for me, mental health wise. And knowing some of your story and what you shared on social media about, suicidal ideations, and, I'm sure there's more to it. So my questions for you is obviously knowing that part of the struggles that you went through and the mental health side of it. One is sort of, how did you overcome it, or at least get to the point through that you're at today? And then maybe, one of the things that I kind of beat myself up with regularly is, how could I have been better for my sister to prevent that situation from happening? And, so maybe you might be able to lend some guidance to people that are listening that may be struggling personally with those thoughts. And, I'll kind of leave it at that and let you speak.
Thank you for sharing that. I've struggled most of my life with depression, anxiety, trauma, suicidal ideation. There's an all or nothing side of my personality. And I think I'm actually just starting to realize now that I believe on the spectrum. And I believe it gives me a lot of gifts. Like, I have a very beautiful mind in some ways, and I can think of things just on a different level, in a different way, in a way that's just atypical. But emotionally, it's hard for me. There's a lot of noise coming in. there's so much data that's coming at me, and I can take on that data a lot of the time, but there's noise that can overwhelm me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to explain. Like if I'm, let's say, like at a bar or something, and I'm trying to focus on a conversation, and then I hear all the conversations, and then I'm processing many conversations, and then there's, the bartender saying something and the music is playing, and I'm like thinking about the lyrics, and like everything is coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get very overwhelmed and drained by life in moments, but I can also do things creatively, brilliantly, that are exciting too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a series of highs and lows. And I think it's pretty common, like, to say someone that's like on the spectrum, or vice versa. Like there's a term, HSP, highly sensitive person,
Mm-hmm.
that is me, that I feel emotions deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and I stay with them, and I dwell on them and think on them. And again, like I can get in points where I'm like feeling way too much, and then shut off, and then feel nothing. And it's just, I mean, we all have like our strengths and weaknesses, and quite often they're the same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been discovering that um, my mind can be a beautiful place, and it can be a prison.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really depressed, there's data on this. The protein called BDNF is related to neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are depressed, you're very low in BDNF levels. And therefore, your brain does not have the resilience. It will stay in loops. And I remember, someone would say something to me about being fat,
Mm-hmm.
about being a loser, about being not good enough. And it would just stay with me and stay with me and replay over, and like not just days, weeks, months, years, where and then I built up like kind of a greatest hits,
Mm-hmm.
where it would put me in that suicidal place. When I went dark, it went all the way dark. And it's not, I can tell you right now, it has nothing to do with you or what you could have done, because I know I've had people around me that love me. And at times I feel so blessed for that. But at times, like just when you have a brain like this, you can just feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're super creative and intelligent, people will want to use you for that. And then when you're odd and weird, people will want to make fun of you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of sets you down this path. So and I've never talked about anything exactly like this. So this is honestly like a lot of work I've been doing on myself to try and understand myself and be
I
real about who I am and where I am. And I'm proud of where I am and what I've become, but this idea that like these things are linear, and it's like, this Instagram thing where it's like, I used to be here, now I'm here, and
Mm-hmm.
things are great, and the hero's journey, and
Yeah.
it's not like that. It's not like that for me at all. Like I still have very dark days, and when stress comes in and things fall apart, it can go like really far down, and it's just a reality. So like you have to like build your world appropriately to where you do have resources, you do have space and time, you do have more reserves in the tank, like, with your nutrition and sunshine and sleep and, all these things. Or else, I mean, if you're already tired, you're already depleted, you're already exhausted, you have toxic relationships, you are working 80 hours a week, and then someone says X to you,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to hit way harder. And I know that now. So, it's just trying to set myself up so that I don't fall as far. But it's very much for me all or nothing. And the thing is, when I'm in the all mode, I cannot be stopped. Like no one in the universe can outwork me. I mean, I'm passionate, brilliant, and then I work like 80 to 100 hours a week. No one is going to even come close to what I can achieve when I'm focused. And then when it all falls apart, I can't keep up with anything. I can't even get out of bed. I can't face the day. I want to like just stay under the covers for days on end. So it's a hard back and forth, and it's that swing can be even more difficult when paired up.
I appreciate you sharing. I really do appreciate you sharing the story. And again, I think what I'm hoping with these podcasts is to really help people that, I feel like men are raised in a way, generally speaking, to hide their their challenges or their weaknesses, is to be alpha male and dominant, etc., all these things. And I think it makes it difficult at times for men to admit that they do have challenges. So I think it's really powerful, obviously, to have you on and to have you speak about it. I try to take the situation from losing my sister and other things that have happened, and to realize that there are opportunities for me to have this conversation with you, to create a podcast that may help others. And I think that maybe that I'm just assuming, but maybe that's helped give you the opportunity to write, the energy formula, or, to do all the other things that you're doing. Um, and maybe the question I would have then is, what are the tools, or what are the must do things that you might recommend to people that are facing depression? And that could lead into our further conversation around biohacking. But what do you see as the must list, essentially, to take away as much of that darkness as possible?
I'll tell you what, like, there's some nuance to the idea of depression. Like, I really feel like if you're depressed, you're still feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the darkest places I've ever been is when I stopped feeling. And I was just really apathetic, and like nothing made me sad or happy anymore. And I just felt like I was a zombie moving through life. So that's just something like that. I don't know if like people that haven't fought depression and like understand that, like, I think it's okay, obviously, to have your emotions and to recognize them. It's just how long you're sitting with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be depressed, and obviously if someone passes away, or something, that you can be in that place for a while. It's just, the question is like, how long does the depression hold you? And then does it get to a place when you stop feeling? Obviously, the tools that matter are talking about it, are talking often about it. Like for me to just be this candid with you is not easy. That's taken a lot of work of me. Probably 5 years ago, I would have told you I've never had depression in my life. It's taken a lot of work on my end to just speak about it, to admit the vulnerability of it, to admit the fragility of it. I grew up believing that the conditioning was that depression was as beta male could be. Like that is like a made up condition for people that are weak, for people that cry, for people that, and full disclosure, this is my conditioning from the 80s, was gay. People that aren't male enough or strong enough or know how to suppress or dissociate enough. Like those were strengths, I was told, like to suppress and dissociate, like essentially. Stick it down there. Like a real man goes forward. He deals with the pain like Arnold and Stallone. And, these are the champions. And since then, obviously, my beliefs have shifted quite a bit to realize that what a man is as broad as you can imagine. And real strength comes from vulnerability. That's where strength comes from. And being able to share that vulnerability. Like intimacy, I think often gets confused with sex, and it can have something to do with that. But intimacy is being vulnerable and being seen and heard and having that exchange. And so that intimacy can be between two men and is really important for men to have. And, saying on this podcast, like, I mean, that's the even harder part, is being a man and talking about depression and wanting to reach other men that are dealing with depression, because it's the condition that no one wants to talk about. And I'll tell you that having been in some of these circles where I have been talking about it especially with entrepreneurs that are like me, I come to find out I'm very much not alone. And it's almost like a badge of entrepreneurship that you have imposter syndrome, you have trauma in your background, you feel like you're not good enough. And that's where all this drive comes from, this relentless drive. I would say 40% of the men that are elite executives, entrepreneurs, founders of companies I've talked to have been sexually abused. That's something you never hear about, ever. So there's a lot there that is just not being shared. And this pain is being carried alone. And so that is something, every time I get on stage and talk about suicidal ideation, like I'm scared to actually share it. A little bit of me is scared and like thinking it'll be rejected. Or is he doing it for attention? But almost every time I've done it, someone comes up to me and says, like, not only have they been through that, but one or two people will come up to me that's like dealing with it right now. And that's a scary reality, that someone can end their life, and it is a permanent thing. But I do want to say this, that recently Jessica Alana was this brilliant speaker at Biohacker Summit I was just at. in Amsterdam, and I was talking about psychedelics, and those have had a profound effect for me, and we can definitely talk about that. But she had her mother recently commit suicide, and she even showed pictures at the end, and
Wow.
she granted her mother, like, she talked about how beautiful her mother was and how she respected her mother's decision, and granted her that sovereignty to make that decision. And I thought, that's really powerful.
Yeah, that's
It was a
huge.
powerful thought, like powerful. Like,
Absolutely.
I sat and thought on that a while, because, you know, there's freedom in that for both parties, but especially yourself, to say, like, they were sovereign, they made their choice, and that choice was possibly the right choice for them. I mean, that's a hard thing to grapple with. I don't know, like a lot of people would get angry at that idea, but you have to grant people their sovereignty to ultimately make the choices that they make. And it's not one that's a comfortable one, and it's certainly a one that has incredible impact on those around you and the ones you love. But some people are in so much pain. That's just a difficult topic. I mean, they're in such a prison that every day is a living hell. And I'm not going to know or project my beliefs on someone when I haven't been in their brain, because I know what I've been through. And so I can't, like, tell someone what to do with their life. I can give them the reasons I think they're amazing, that they're beautiful, and what I feel like is reasons to live. I can tell them about the impact it's going to have. But ultimately, like everyone, I want them to have their sovereignty. I mean, that's important, that we all have our own freedom. And that's an uncomfortable thought, for sure. But I was very impressed that she had freed herself from that pain. And I know it was painful for her. But to see her mother as still a beautiful person, and a person that she loved and still respected, instead of someone who destroyed her life.
That's powerful, and I appreciate you sharing that story. It's helpful for myself, and I'm sure helpful for many. And I know it's uh, not an easy topic, probably for either of us to discuss openly, but I think it's a helpful topic for so many people. And I think that having someone able to listen and hear our conversation will hopefully give people hope and support in some way. So again, I appreciate you opening up, and I appreciate you being here and having the conversation. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Maybe to direct things in maybe a positive light. One of the things that I have been very much interested in learning more about and hearing about, and I think it lends itself well to mental health. And I've sort of spoken to people within my circle about, you know, the idea of biohacking, the idea of improving overall health, whether that be through the environment or connecting with the earth. You mentioned psychedelics, and I know it's a bigger topic than you can have on a single podcast. But how might someone start to optimize their overall health from mental and physical? What are some things, and I encourage everyone that's listening to definitely follow Shawn Wells on his social media platforms to reach out to buy his audiobook or hard copy The Energy Formula. But in saying all that, what are some things that you might start with to suggest to someone, hey, these are things you need to do to optimize your life? If that's even a relevant question, but if you could sort of help me walk through this, let's say I'm in this place of not feeling optimal and I want to be optimal. Where do I go from here?
Yeah. And that's a great question. And my book is a biohacking book, an anti-aging book. The Energy Formula is an acronym for the word energy is experiment, nutrition, exercise, routines, growth, and your tribe. And I feel like I go through these 6 hallmarks of how to live a better life, a more fulfilled life, and a more energized life. And it starts with experiment is looking at who you are bio-individually, looking at your labs, understanding how you're different, what makes you unique, what is the approaches that you should take as an individual and not just listen to blanket statements in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And then how to measure the differences over time and using things like wearables and labs and some of these tools that we have now. And I have surveys in the book that help out with all that. Certainly I'm a supplement guy, so there's a lot of supplement stacks throughout the book. Nutrition is huge. There was one point, obviously my mental health played out and had a huge impact on my physical health. I ended up having Epstein-Barr, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Hashimoto's.
Wow.
And there was 6 months where I literally could not get out of bed. I'd crawl a few steps and I'd fall over. I had no energy in my body. The Epstein-Barr just continued on pretty severely. And it wasn't until I started doing keto, this is over 20 years ago that I was doing this, and doing some paleo, and then getting on a slew of immune supplements that I started making my way back. And again, at that point, when I spent 6 months in bed, I was trying to finish up my master's, and I thought, I'm going to kill myself because I will never be a productive member of society. And there was one point when I had 2 discs replaced in my neck, and I was in bed for months. And they told me it would be, a couple months, but I was in bed for months and months in extreme pain, way worse pain than why I had them replaced. Wow. So I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life, and I would be in excruciating pain, unbearable pain all day, every day. And again, thought about killing myself. So I can tell you, like, there's, dark days that come from just extreme pain and fatigue when the body is just worn out and you just can't deal with it. And you don't feel, again, like you're a human being, or you're ever going to be productive. So, those are realities. And for me, when I switched up my nutrition and went down this path, it had a profound effect. I was able to get back out. I was able to start going to the gym, taking walks, going back to school, feeling like I could have a life again. But I've had a series of things that have happened. I had a brain tumor, and I think a lot of this stuff is just from the mental exhaustion I put myself through. This is my dog again. Let's put her down for a minute.
It's all good, man.
Maya.
I think for those that are listening, as Shawn goes to grab his dog, I think it's important that people recognize that Shawn is well educated in nutrition, well educated in health, and has traveled and has obviously experienced a lot. personally. And as I've said, I feel like all of these challenges that we face in this world are opportunities for us to grow and to learn and to expand. And I think I really want to highlight on the fact that I think Shawn is an incredible guest today and an opportunity for anybody that is listening and that finds any of this stuff helpful. That they definitely should follow Shawn and grab his book and really start looking into the idea of optimizing their health from a mental aspect, a physical aspect, emotional, spiritual, all of those things. And again, as Shawn is back, I think it's a great place to start. And there's so much information, again, on all of that to support people, and especially in this time coming through the most recent pandemic. I think there's so much depression and physical, emotional challenges that people are facing, and they don't know where to turn. So again, I'm grateful to have Shawn on today, and he's back. So I'll let him continue along that story.
Yeah, thank you. Exercise, obviously can play. Like, I know that a lot of days I don't feel like exercising when I can be down, but for me, just any type of movement, has a pretty profound effect on dopamine, endorphins, changing your brainwave state, improving vagal tone. So for me, getting out and moving my body, and especially if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, like if I play some volleyball or something, like that has a really profound effect on my mental state and my resilience. I think it's going to increase your levels of BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and give you that neuroplasticity. So exercise can be very profound. Routines is really important. I know I would seek out dark places. I would want to sleep all day, but then I would also go many days where I'm getting an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep, and just have these wild swings. And what that's doing to your circadian rhythm, to your sleep-wake cycle, to your hormones and neurotransmitters, is creating a recipe for disaster, essentially, and certainly a lack of resilience. So to not give yourself a consistent schedule is definitely hurting your ability to take on what's known as, I talk about in the book, that the term is allostatic capacity. And your allostatic load is how much you have. And this is your allostatic capacity is your stress bucket. And the allostatic load is how much, let's say, water is in that bucket. And the smaller your bucket, the easier it's going to be overflowing. The more we can grow that bucket with resilience being harder to kill, being anti-fragile, whatever term you want to use, the better. And so doing things like I talk about with adaptogens, ginseng, maca, ashwagandha, rhodiola, these kinds of things are amazing for enhancing our ability to take on stress and therefore adapt and have greater allostatic capacity. And certainly, if you're not in an overstressed place, hormetic stress can be really good. And those are things that are going to grow the stress bucket if you're not overflowing. So things like working out at the gym, things like fasting and doing cold exposure, cold plunges, hot saunas, red light, all these things that we know to be so good as hormetic stresses that improve the size of our bucket, that make us more anti-fragile. Those are great only when you're not overflowing. If you've just lost your job, if you're going through some sort of crisis, if you're overwhelmed, haven't slept, then it's not a good time. And this is where HRV is a tremendous marker to use. Heart rate variability is a really simple marker that a lot of these wearables can tell you. Like I believe even the iWatch may do this, but certainly the Garmin Phoenix, the Whoop strap, BioStrap, the Aura Ring, they all have some degree of like a readiness score, an HRV that will tell you how resilient you are at the moment, and if you can take on stress, like if you can work out, if you can do some fasting, if you can take on a heavy day at work or not. And so that's a very useful tool. Growth, I get into, having the ikigai, essentially this Japanese concept around doing what you love, getting paid for what you love, and like chasing your passion. Essentially, it's a great concept, and then how the ways to challenge yourself again, to have a resilient brain, and to have a more neuroplastic brain, as we've talked about, and how important that is, because having a resilient body is great, and having this allostatic capacity is important, but as the brain goes, your body goes, and that's certainly true in my case. So having that neuroplastic brain is going to be important. So training your brain accordingly is going to be helpful as well. So doing things that challenge yourself every day, finding ways to put your belt on the opposite way, take a different way to work, learn a new instrument, learn a new language, things like this, like go to new restaurants, eat new food, learn a new language, whatever it is, like all of these things can be helpful at being more neuroplastic. So, and then lastly is your tribe, massive one. And I save that for last, is like, who are the people around you? Who are the people that you have intentionally put around you with thought? Who are you becoming? So, this is Maya is just not in a great place right now. So she's not very neuroplastic.
It's a good test for us.
Yeah. If you have a minute,
of course,
I can let her out. Maybe that's what this is. So,
yeah,
she just does this sometimes, and I've tried to hold her. I've tried to give her water, but I think maybe I'll go let her out really quickly. Absolutely. Do you have a couple minutes?
Absolutely, man. We got time. Thanks, you so brother. Much.
Sorry, this is happening.
No, this is real. So again, just kind of highlighting, obviously, wanting to be as real and organic as possible and have real conversations. Shawn's obviously taking time to take care of his dog, and that is great. But again, just talking about some tools, and Shawn's mentioning a lot, and it's hard to cover all in one podcast. But again, and I'll mention again, Shawn's mentioned a number of things on social media, whether it be around supplements to take. And I know, I believe today he talked about the importance of magnesium. He's talked about the importance of vitamin D. He's talked about psychedelics. He's talked about, cold baths, ice baths. There's also something called grounding, which is connecting with the earth, whether that be a walk in nature or barefoot on the ground. There's just so many things to help optimize your life. And that's really what biohacking is in a very basic terminology. But Shawn is an expert in the field of health, and having him here to discuss that and giving you the opportunity to listen again, and providing tools to help overcome mental health challenges, and then to optimize yourself physically and help prevent disease. My mom is currently challenged with leukemia, and I've watched family members have their own health challenges, and it's difficult to watch. And so part of what I hope to do is to be able to teach and to show people how to optimize their health. And then I'm obviously learning for myself so that my family, my boys can be better themselves. And this is something that you can help teach your children. It includes the amount of tablet time and the amount of electronics you have in your life and all of these things. So definitely search for it on social media, search for it and learn as much as you can. Grab Shawn's book, reach out if you have questions, but I believe all of this information is helpful. And talking about the concept again of optimizing your health to help prevent depression and personal mental health challenges and help prevent physical challenges. And so I hope everybody that's listening today is finding this useful. I feel like the idea of allowing my sister after her passing to give her grace and to have peace in knowing that she made a decision that she felt at the time was best is helpful for me. And maybe that's helpful for someone else. And also knowing that, it's a difficult place to be for those individuals that are challenged with the idea of suicide and those thoughts. So again, thank you everyone for listening in. Thank you for, being a part of the podcast and supporting. I hope this is being helpful for you. And again, I am very much grateful for all of our guests. I think that we've had some incredible podcasts. So please continue to listen in as Shawn is back. So I think, maybe to add some to this, Shawn, so obviously there's a number of resources that you have, your book. So maybe where would you suggest that our listeners connect with you, and how can they get the best information? Maybe your social media, how can they buy your book? Maybe we can go there for a minute.
Yeah. So the Energy Formula book is at energyformula.com. I have a bunch of free stuff that you can get there. Recipe guide, hidden chapter on natural movement, a fasting guide, several things. And obviously at Shawn Wells, SHAWN, on Instagram, YouTube, a lot of content there. And then ShawnWells.com. I have a free newsletter that comes out every week. And I would love for everyone to subscribe and follow me on all these things. I put out a lot of good content. There's no angles. There's no affiliate anything. It's all just driven on how to help you.
Now, you're based in the US and I'm in Canada. Does all of this ship in terms of the hard copy of your book? Does that ship to Canada? Is that accessible internationally?
It is. Yeah. It's international. And I have the ebook, the hardcover, the soft cover, and the audiobook that I've recorded as well.
Perfect.
And I'm coming out with a chorus a little after the new year, I believe. We're trying to wrap that up right now. So a whole video chorus, bunch of content. It's going to be really cool. A lot of people have helped me out with it too. A lot of friends in the biohacking space are on it. Mm-hmm. So that's coming out very soon.
And you mentioned there's some summits and things. Like, are there anything coming up relatively soon that people can attend or that you'll be speaking?
Yes. So actually this next weekend, I will be in Austin at the How Do You Health Summit. And I will be a keynote speaker there talking on psychedelics and my experience. A slew of great speakers. As a matter of fact, I will be leveraging that. I'll be there the whole week prior, recording with all these people
Amazing.
for my chorus. So many great speakers on psychedelics, on biohacking, on supplements, IVs, peptides, like all that kind of stuff, and certainly mental health. I will be talking about my journey and psychedelic stacks, as well as the supplement stacks to support them. So, I mean, really, no one else is talking about what I'll be talking about. So it'll be cool. Like I definitely think people should come and check it out. And if you actually use SHAWN, I believe you get 15% off, something like that. I'm not sure, but I think if you use my name, you get a discount.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will definitely be tuning in as much as possible, and I will continue to share information on our podcast and on my social media with regards to the information that you've been sharing. I think there's so much, and it's hard to dig into all of it, um, you know, in one podcast. And maybe we do a conversation down the road where we talk about certain things that maybe people are most interested in or have questions about. With that said, is there, if I was going to say to you, based on biohacking and this short topic conversation of today, is there like a top 10 list of, obviously the acronym, but is there a top 10 list of maybe, I'm just naming things off here, but psychedelics, ice baths, magnesium, vitamin D, like, is there a list of a top 10 that you suggest people research, investigate, and maybe include in their lifestyle, like tomorrow or right now?
I would love to come back and talk for a whole hour on psychedelics because there's a lot to break down there, but
Yeah.
they definitely can give you a profound access to your operating system in a way that nothing else can. But there's a lot of caveats there that I would definitely like to explain. And it's not just something to kind of whimsically dabble in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack there. I believe it's going to be fairly simple, but you'd be surprised at how many of these things get missed. We are no longer playing the role that we used to play in the holobiont. The world around us is a living, breathing being, and we're existing in it. And we're meant to exchange our microbiome. We're more bacteria than cells. We're meant to have natural movement. We're not meant to have our feet in these compressive platforms of shoes. We're not meant to have junk artificial light that is in our eyes all day long. We're not meant to be breathing recycled air through filters, and we're not meant to be eating ultra processed foods and being disconnected from the water, the air, the grass, the ground, the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
We're meant to hug each other and not isolate from each other. We are meant to get germs. I love the idea of being germophilic and not germophobic.
Uh-huh.
We're meant, there's information, just like the idea of pheromones. When you breathe something in, that there's data in there, sexually maybe, that was a way to be attracted or maybe be repulsed by someone or have fear or something like that. There is data in these pheromones, and there's data in our microbiome, in this bacterial exchange that's taking place, that's ancient. And so getting out and getting sunshine, breathing the air, grounding in your bare feet, grabbing the dirt, the earth, petting a pet, hugging a person, crawling, rolling, getting in your natural movement of your body instead of sitting syndrome. And all of these things are super helpful. Affirmations, just saying positive things. If anyone talked to you like you talk to you, you wouldn't be their friend.
Mhm.
So changing the language that's in your head and just getting into the practice of affirmations, getting into the practice of gratitude, being thankful for so many things that go right. I told you I stuck in loops over those one thing that, someone would say, but there's 99 other things that were going right. I just wasn't focused on those things. So gratitude is powerful practice. There's so much to be thankful for. There's so much that's going right. There's so many ways that you're blessed. And to me, that's a game changer. And just granting yourself grace, having ease with yourself, knowing that you're exploring, that there's lessons in everything, that the universe is not working against you, it's working for you. There's a lesson here that can be learned. There's an opportunity in everything. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to find? Give yourself ease. Allow yourself to explore. The serendipity in life, the amazing, profound things that get discovered are from the mistakes. So let's stop thinking of them as mistakes and just thinking of it as exploration. What am I going to explore today? How will I be creative? How will I let myself do something that feels uncomfortable or wrong? And it can end up being like one of the most beautiful things in your life. So those are some of the pieces of advice that
That's awesome. Again, I such a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate it. Maybe my last question for today is really in sort of concluding this conversation. What is it that our listeners, that I should know about Shawn Wells as a person, and what do you want to leave our listeners with today?
that I still struggle, that it isn't a straight path, and thank God it's not. There's so much joy and emotion and experience to be had in the curved path. It's where you find yourself. That's where the resilience comes from. And that's where the brilliance comes from, and being challenged. And so accepting that challenge has been helpful for me, and knowing that there will be hard days, there'll be beautiful days too, and it's not meant to be easy. That I have really, really been blessed now with just amazing people that are around me. And I have consciously chose those people, but also people just have gravitated into my life, and your vibe attracts your tribe. And I've been so blessed with that. People that come in, like just being blessed with this podcast. This is an absolute blessing to me today, to be on here, to be talking to you. It's a beautiful conversation because I believe it's impacting you. I believe it's impacting who's ever listening, but it's impacting me. The more I talk about myself, explore myself, think on who I am, the kinder I can be to myself, the more I can come up with better ways to deal with the hard times, and also appreciate the good times. That's one thing I didn't mention, is just it's powerful to like sit there and appreciate the good times. As an entrepreneur, I'd always just be like checking off those boxes and on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never sit there and appreciate, I did this, I accomplished this, I'm proud of myself, this is amazing. It was just always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful curved path that I'm on. Another like last thing is that kind of going back to me being an HSP, highly sensitive person, I'm an introvert by nature. And I believe, like most of my life, I believe that term to have such a negative connotation that it's like, well, why are you like that? Here's how you can become extroverted. Like,
Yeah.
really? Do I need that? I mean, I speak on stage. I've spoken in front of 10,000 people. I've been on TV, and it's hard. I'll tell you, it's very hard for me. But I am a person that has a mission, and each time I do it, it doesn't get easier. I wish it did. But I believe introvert means a deep thinker and deep feeler. And that's what that means. And there's no negative to it at all. And it is a strength. It's a unique strength. And I make more mistakes than other people when I speak. Like, this did not go perfectly, right? My dog was barking. She's 17 years old. I'm here by myself, and most times it's fine, but it didn't go great, but I'm real.
Yeah.
And people appreciate real, and real makes mistakes, and real stumbles. And I'm proud to be real. I don't want to be super polished. This is who I am. And I think for the people that need to hear it, they see me as that.
Well, I appreciate all of your time today. I appreciate this entire conversation. I'm grateful. Obviously, a number of things that you've said will help me in my own personal journey and help me dealing with the loss of my sister. I am grateful that you've been open to share your story and your journey. And I'm sure it's not easy, as you've said. So with that, thank you very, very much. Again, as I said, our guest today is Shawn Wells. He's known as the ingredientologist. He has written a great book called The Energy Formula. He is considered an expert in the field of biohacking and in supplements and so many other things. So I'm grateful to have Shawn on today. And again, in closing, my name is David Whalen. This is the Raising Men podcast and episode number 7. And I hope we get to continue on this journey with everyone. So thank you for everyone that's tuned in. Shawn, is there anything you want to leave with at all?
Wow. Well, just again, I feel so blessed to have been on. Thank you for having me on.
No
I
problem.
love that a lesson today is, again, that things don't always go the way you want them to go, but there's such life is amazing for that reason.
Yeah.
I love the vulnerability of all of it, because we all have the stuff that comes up in our struggles, and I just love those lessons every day. So it's another beautiful day, and thank you for having me be a part of yours.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. We're signing off the Raising Men podcast. Tune in. We're on social media, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Thank you. You guys have an incredible rest of your day.